Hello, I am Nimja, and this is Nimja Live, October 2020, with the theme Gentle Ghost Bedtime Story. Hello everyone, and I'd like to begin as always to thank the continued support of all my 1,192 supporters on Patreon and the many donators. Of course, I'm also not able to chat directly, because the keyboard would make a bit too much sound. And the recording will be available on the site with background music and, if need be, like small edits. Now, for those of you who are new, I think there's one or two of you out there. First we discuss the theme. Then about a quarter past we do the hypnosis, and afterwards there is a Q&A. The themes alternate between gentle and kinky. This is a gentle live, which means that the theme will not contain any naughtiness of the erotic or kinky kind. Other naughtiness, like the stealing of cookies and or blankets, may still occur. I hope everyone is doing very well. Anyway, so what we will do is we will discuss the theme in a moment. And I wouldn't say that October is the kinkiest month. It is a month of stories and scary, creepy, spooky skeletons. Fortunately, they're very good at dancing, and most people enjoy dancing skeletons. Tonight's file, however, is not about skeletons. It is about ghosts. Gentle, sweet ghosts. I wonder if ghosts eat cookies, or if they're ghost cookies. Are they the ghosts of eaten cookies? Anyway, enjoyable, spooky, scary skeleton music notwithstanding, let's see. What kind of elements shall we share in our gentle ghost story? And if you have any questions that are not related to the theme, please wait until after the hypnosis session. And yes, I do generally read the chat before we begin, but I am also still setting up sometimes. Oh, I almost forget. As you guys can obviously see, I have a completely new background. I'm still setting it up. I need to buy some filler lights to make this new screen easier to set up. But it does make my life and my live much more easy. The ghosts of cookies past. Yeah, that would be December. And the idea behind this file is that it will be like a sleep file. I will wake you up afterwards. Of course, you are not required to participate or to wake up if you're really comfy. Howling winds and fall feelings. I kind of like that. Howling wind and fall. Any ghost pirates? Yar, probably not. And they are friendly, gentle ghosts. A gentle ghost tucking us in. A haunted forest, a ghost stuffy. Oh, I like the idea of a ghost stuffy. But don't worry, I have some ideas of how to make it work. Ghost telling a ghost story. Ghostbusters. Aw, that would be a shame. The smell of apple or pumpkin pie. I mean, pumpkins in general. And I would say this is a little friendly file. Maybe not 100% little, but a fireplace. Maybe. The smell of freshly baked cookies and maybe some ghosts to dance with. A black cat in the theme of trick or treats. Trick or treats. And all the food scents, pumpkin spice lattes. Aww, a sparkly halo. Yeah, I'm still making sure that the keying is done correctly. A fancy ghost. A fancy ghost. I kind of like that idea as an element in a story. We'll have to see. There may be more than one. A pumpkin-lit path. The ghost of unanswered Q&A questions. Well, I mean, most of the questions get an answer of at least yes. I don't think we will do a gathering party of the undead. We will keep this one relatively gentle. It's a good idea for something else. Being tucked in, fall asleep. A group of different ghosts. Ooh, a group of ghosts. A group of gentle ghosts. Different G pronunciations. I will write down graveyards and whispers. A cute little ghost. And thank you, Devil, for appreciating my work. Let me see. I think I have enough. Yes, I think I have enough. So, for now, I would like you all to get very, very comfortable. Make sure that you are in a very nice position and in a comfy place where you can relax and close your eyes. Headphones are always helpful. Did I write down a fireplace? I saw it mentioned several times. Anyway, I hope you are all nice and comfy, cozy, and very ready. Again, I'd like to remind you that you are not in any way required to participate. However, if you do not want to participate, please do stay quiet during the trance. it's nice to give other people the space. Snug as a bug in a rug, even though most bugs in rugs are probably not that snug. Too spoopy for someone. So ready to drop. I'm very glad to hear that you are all ready. Well, I think that I will delay no longer. And I don't think I will do any ghost glitter. Glitter is bad enough on its own. It gets everywhere. And don't worry, this is a very relaxing one. You don't have to do anything but just lay back and listen. A ghost massage. It's like a ghost message, but not quite the same. And indeed, I won't forget the spiral. And if you're curious about the background music, I do not use the background music during the live, so you can see that it's all live as you listen. The file on the site on hypno.nimja.com will have the background music. It's uploaded usually like half an hour after the live ends. I do my best to have it done and up there relatively quickly. All right, I think we are all ready. Let's make sure. There we go. Oh, there's one tiny thing. There we go. There. And we'll see what kind of inspiration bleeds over into something else. All right. Let's begin. Hello, I am Nimja, and this is Nimja Live, Gentle Ghost Bedtime Story. In this file, I'm going to carefully tell you a story after I put you to bed. It's important to get yourself comfy, and I hope that you're all nice and wrapped up in those blankets. In fact, the more comfy you are, the better the story will be. In a way, this is a story about sheets, after all, and ghosts. But they're nice ghosts, gentle ghosts. So do you think that you're all ready? Are you all nice and comfy, curled up in those blankets and waiting for a story to be told? Enjoying the sound of my voice as I slowly, very teasing, make you wait before I begin the story. Oh, don't worry, I'm not going to make you wait that long, but sometimes it's fun. Before I begin this story, I kind of have to tell you about the world it is in. Because it's not the world like our world, it's a completely different place, inhabited by ghosts. And those ghosts have families and children, and they live their ghostly lives very similar to ours. Well, with a few minor differences. So you can't really get sick as a ghost, and you can walk through walls. So some things are easier, other things are a bit more difficult. At least you never have to choose what you're wearing, because you always kind of look the same in those wonderful white sheets. So close your eyes and imagine a very beautiful old-fashioned world inhabited by ghosts. And let me tell you a story about one of them. It was in the middle of fall. The brown leaves, some of them with all kinds of reds and oranges, like falling on the ground, sometimes pleasantly crunching beneath the feet of creatures. They dotted the landscape as our ghost floated by. See, ghosts have some difficulty touching things, so most of the time they left no footprints. They just sort of hovered a little above the ground and went on their business. This ghost was kind of special. They were curious, incredibly inquisitive, and wanting to know how everything in the world works. They did their duty in school, and they always paid attention, even if some of the teachers found it slightly frustrating when they asked so many questions. But mostly they were well liked. And as they floated on their way, all the way from school back home, they were looking around and wondering about the fall. Maybe it was called that way because the leaves all fell from the tree. Then again, maybe there was a completely different reason altogether. These were the kind of thoughts that went through their ghostly mind. Sometimes they'd stretch out their hand, trying to grab a falling leaf out of the air, but it passed through them. And this is what they were used to, even if they were a little sad that they couldn't pick it up. They learned that some ghosts can pick things up, but that it takes a lot of effort. So for now, it wasn't really worth doing all that effort. So our very gentle ghost just floated by, looking at the landscape, at how some of the houses were decorated with pumpkin heads and lovely lights and other decorations. And they were just enjoying their time. It was, after all, a nice day in the fall, a wonderful day for some walking around the city. They didn't have to be home for dinner anytime soon. You might wonder what ghosts eat, and so did they at times. But dinner was mostly just a routine to sit with the family and have conversations about how the day went. For now, though, our little ghosts walked to the park. In the park, it looked like there was some kind of performance. differently dressed ghosts were prancing around and reenacting some kind of play. They weren't on a stage, they were just floating a little above the grass. There were some in very wild costumes, including one in the center with a fancy, glinting top hat. They were telling a story about how the ghosts began. And of course, our little ghosts couldn't resist. They were incredibly curious to find out how this all began, so they sat down, or rather floated a little above the ground, and began to listen. Our forefathers, the ghost began, traveled far and wide across the land seeking for a place to settle. This was before the time of ghosts. They found this place and thought it was a lovely environment to build some houses and roads. But they also were worried about something. They had heard that people sometimes grow old and that this would affect them somehow. So they were looking for a solution. And one day, the chemist of the city came up with an ingenious idea to transform them all into ever-living ghosts. In the beginning, not everyone thought this was a good idea. Then again, it didn't matter, because those that took the curious potion became ghosts that live here now, while the others lived happily ever after for many years and moved on to a different city. Of course, the story of the ghost was a legend among many, and I cannot tell for sure if this is all correct, because we have traveled far and wide and have yet to find any non-ghost. All we could find was ghosts telling ghost stories, so maybe this is all just legend. And as he was telling it, the others were reenacting the story. The little ghost was absolutely fascinated and kept staring for a while until the sun began to set and they kind of hurried away home. Fortunately, Mommy Ghost was kind of amused. It wasn't the first time that the little ghost had been somewhat distracted and came home late. Fortunately, nothing can happen to ghosts, so she was never worried. And after they all sat down around the table for dinner time, telling about their day, the little ghost told them what they'd heard about how the ghost came to be and that it happened all long ago thanks to some mysterious chemist. The father wasn't quite sure if this indeed was the case, but he thought it didn't really matter. No matter where the past has come from, we are here now, and that is what really matters. The little ghost was still very curious, but at the same time they knew that they might never find the answer, which was also okay. The world was full of questions, many of which did have an answer. So after a brief evening of some curiosities and questions, it was time for them to go to bed. the father happily spent some time tucking them in, telling them how when he was young, he was also very curious about the world and wondered how it all came to be. You know, when I was your age, I even traveled quite far up into the mountains. It was a very strange journey. I could tell that it was colder there and that there was wind flowing between the peaks. Of course, for us, that's not much of a problem, even if it appeared to cause some fluttering of my clothes. It was kind of nice, in a way, to be up there all alone between the mountains, wondering where we all came from. And as I climbed up there, I frequently saw traces of what life may have been before. But I never found any proof or anything else that pointed at there ever been something other than ghosts here. However, it was one of the first times that I was able to hold something. It was a very unusual feeling. I had to will my hands in existence and spend so much effort lifting a tiny pebble. But between you and me, when I let that pebble bounce off the mountain, it was so satisfying. The noise it made as it bounced from rock to rock, going on and on for much longer than I could ever have thought, was amazing. It's always so quiet here, and just that little bit of sound was like a whole orchestra was playing just for me. Anyway, it is really time to sleep now. So I'll make sure to tuck you in extra nice, and then you can drift to sleep. It's been a long day, and tomorrow I'm sure your inquisitive mind will ask more curious questions, allowing yourself to be inspired by the beauty and majesty of all things around you. For now, it's much nicer to just drift to sleep. So as I place your ghost plushie in your arms and make sure that you're all curled up and nice, I softly float out of the room while you drift in your bed and let you fall nice and deep asleep. And by the end of the story, as you dream of the wonderfully curious ghost town, it felt nice to hear the slow breathing and the relaxation it caused. It's time to sleep. So feel free to take off your headphones and sleep. And sleep well. And in a moment, I'm going to wake you, and after I wake you, you can stretch for a moment and feel so nice, so refreshed. Just a nice idea as if you've rested for a while. 1, 2, slowly waking. 3, 4, more aware. 5, 6, almost there. 7, 8, almost awake. And 9, 10, wake. And welcome back. Take your time to stretch. Let yourself wake up properly and wake. And in a few moments, I will count up again just to make sure that you're all well awake. 1, 2, slowly waking. 3, 4, more aware. 5, 6, almost there. 7, 8, almost awake. And 9, 10, wake. And welcome back. And I'm glad you enjoyed it. Oh, and you don't have to wake up. It's okay sometimes to just relax and enjoy the floatiness that the hypnosis has given you. It's a very gentle and simple file, I think. And it's completely all right to fall asleep in the middle of this. It was meant to be like just in general, a very nice thing to relax to. And yes, of course, if you want to go to sleep, feel free to just curl up and drift to sleep. In just a moment, we will have the Q&A in which you will ask your questions, and I will do my best to give some answers. I cannot guarantee that all the answers will be equally sane, but those of you who are well aware of this well, something like that. I'm sorry to hear that you had to sneeze, but I hope you are okay now. If no one asks questions, do we get a second trance? No, you don't get a second chance at a second trance. Oh, 5 more minutes, please. Rex asks, what was for dinner tonight? So I visited friends today and they made a really tasty homemade burger. It was really nice. With some, was it jalapeno peppers? I think so. And some aioli. It was really nice. Sweetbee asks, any little audios you have planned? Oh, you just got a bedtime story. What more do you want? Blessed Pepper asked, what actually is the story behind the butterfly symbol or logo? It is a reference to something I read where butterflies are the messengers of the soul. It is the logo I use for the name Nimja, where the metronome is the Nimja Hypnosis logo. And indeed, I could have visited France. I mean, it's not that far away. Anna Zverina asks, any advice for those who are anxious about midterms this week? Well, do your best to study and focus. Ari Nagama asks, what is a topic you could talk about for hours and hours? Hypnosis, games, computers, programming, probably quite a few things. Brianna asks, was there Stuffy a doggy? I mean, that's up to you. And HP asks, do you have some suggestions for good games on PC? Very many. I've been playing Nier lately. RH asks, why did you choose Sunday for the monthly live stream? Because it is a day in which you can do like late things very easily, and most people have like time available to them. Fauna Johnson asks, would you rather be Crowley or Aristophale? Probably Crowley is interesting. And I'm sorry, Eliwater, please speak in English. Natural asks, have you played Among Us yet? No, I've been watching some people. I know that some people, and I'm not going to name any names, would really like me to play Among Us. Madeline asks, what game have you been playing lately? So I was playing Nier Automata. I'm not done with it yet. Strawberry Milk asks, would you recommend Minecraft as a little friendly game? Well, yeah, it depends on how far you travel. The Nether can be less little friendly. Rex asks, have you played Genshin Impact yet? I have not. Just a Little Me asks, have you done anything fall-like yet? Well, I try not to fall too much. I did do some bicycling and walking. And Mastermind asks, have you ever thought about a trance inside a trance? Yes, that is what I just did. I did a story inside a story. Lily Hill asked, the Minecraft Live was yesterday. Did you watch it? I did not, but I did hear that there's an upcoming update for caves and stuff for next year. Emily Mao asks, fruitcake, Christmas loaf, or abomination of a doorstop? I think that depends heavily on who makes it. Madeline asks, what is your favorite song? Well, I mean, there's quite a lot of music that I like. Wait, let me see if I can read this correctly. Ruth asks, I've wanted to ask this for a while, even though I'm a sub. I'm intrigued. So with hypnosis, you do dominant, but is it even possible to do hypnosis to do switch giving control over within a deep trance? No, even after reading it out loud, I'm not entirely sure what you're asking. I'm sorry. Haley asks, how cold does it usually get in the Netherlands? In winter, it gets a few degrees below zero. Anna asks, is Nightmare Before Christmas a Halloween or a Christmas movie? It is about Christmas. But it's also about holidays in general. Alexa asks, have you ever tried to ice skate? No, I've done ice skating quite a bit. In the Netherlands, ice skating is quite common. Miranda asks, favorite game genre? So I played Ori and the Will of the Wisps a while ago. I really enjoy certain types of Metroidvania. I quite like certain hacky slashy games. I enjoy some FPSs. I have a fairly broad range. Golfball missed. A few degrees below zero, I'm assuming Celsius. Yes, of course Celsius. I don't do freedom units, I do metric. Strawberry Milk asks, what was your favorite costumes as a kid when you were trick-or-treating? We don't do trick-or-treating. This is not the US. So I did not have a costume. Sophie Sunset asks, have you played Psychonauts yet? Years ago, yes. Lucy Lou asks, is it weird if I just woke up? Not at all. Brian asks, if you have to choose between being transformed into a zombie, ghost, or a skeleton, which would you choose and why? Ghost. It is probably the most stable of those forms. Zombies fall apart, skeletons fall apart. Apparently many people are surprised by calling Imperial units the Freedom Units. The reason why they're called the Freedom Units is because there's only 2 countries in the whole world that are still using the Imperial system. And of those 2 countries, half of the UK is already switched. So, yeah. And anyone who lives in the US actually has to learn 2 systems if they do anything with science, because all the science in the US uses metric. Arena Gama asks, what kind of fall holidays are there in the Netherlands? None, really. Eternal Fancy asked, would you rather be werewolf, vampire, ghost, or skeleton? Depends a bit on which kind of lore you would go by. See, vampire or skeleton would be more... vampire or werewolf would be more interesting. Generally, in most rules, werewolves have got it better. Katie Safo asked, did you at some point change the Patreon reward for a session from silver and gold patrons to just gold patrons? Because in some of the earlier lives you say patrons above $10 get a session. Yes. So this is kind of complicated. The issue is that I'm not supposed to give rewards to patrons that only benefit one patron. So recording something with someone is fine, but promising a session is not. It's a bit tricky that way. So the $10 reward I had was actually not entirely allowed with the Patreon rules. Shueta Papa asks, what type of festivals do the Dutch celebrate? Any fairs of carnivals? I mean, New Year's Eve is a much bigger thing here than in the US, I think. And oh, by the way, like as a vampire, of course, I would have like more hypnotic power as well. Alexa asks, how many shirts do you have with your logo? 2, and I wash them well. Fortunately, it's a month between lives, so that gives me plenty of time. Brian asks, on the subject of autumn, what colors do the trees turn in your area? How beautiful are the Netherlands in autumn, and would you want to experience autumn in particular anywhere else? Oh, I've been like in many different countries within Europe around autumn, and the colors varies a bit. We have the standard like color scheme, but the trees are a bit different. And even within the Netherlands, it varies. The east of the Netherlands has slightly more classic colors than here around Amsterdam. Xenix asks, if you would be a vampire, would you be a fancy one that only drinks the rare blood type? I don't know. I'm not that much of a snob when it comes to food. See, I appreciate good food, but I can eat simple food. So, as a vampire, probably the same. I wouldn't want to kill anyone, though. I'd probably be a vampire that, like, takes a bit of your blood. Like, a liter or 2. You'll be fine. You just might feel a little lightheaded. Just a Little Me asks, what is the most comfy, coziest thing you can think of? Hot chocolate, sipping on a hot chocolate while, like, curled up in blankets. Haley asks, if you could do one experiment without worry of costs or moral issues, what would you do? You can only choose one. I think it'd be very interesting to do a really large-scale hypnosis experiment, like very well documented and sciencey. But I would need like a lot of help from people with psychology degrees and education. Eternal Fancy asked, do you get annoyed when people call the Netherlands Holland? No. It's like calling the United States of America just America, even though there's more Americas. Like, it's what people call it now. That's fine. Jezebel, if memory serves, the average person has 5 liters of blood, and taking a liter is fine. You'll survive. Midnight Films asks, have you ever tried apple cider? And if so, what are your thoughts on it? It's an interesting way to treat apples. I've had like beer-like cider and also some stronger ones. I kind of like the apple flavor in it. Skater Rap Monkey asks, I just noticed that there's the letters K, E, and G. What do they stand for? Kinky, erotic, and gentle. Tamra asks, can you sing? No. Anna Zverina asks, why do people call the Netherlands Holland? Because the 2 westmost provinces, the one connected to the sea, are North and South Holland. Flora asks, what is your zodiac sign? My birthday is at the end of December, between Christmas and New Year's. Strawberry Milk asks, do vampires have favorite types of blood? Do different blood types have different tastes? Well, probably. I mean, mosquitoes also prefer one person over the other. They're also bloodsuckers, so... Midnight Films asks, do you like wine? I actually don't drink that much alcohol. Alina asks, do you ever do in-person DS sessions? Yes. Miranda asks, do you like dinosaur-shaped nuggets? I mean, good chicken nuggets are nice. And yes, mosquitoes are... I don't know if they're less or more scary if you call them tiny vampires. Flora X asks, will you ever do a face reveal? I don't know. Maybe. Eternal Fancy asks, what is the worst thing that happened during a live? Well, not during. The live in December of 2019, if memory serves, YouTube had a major outage and I couldn't start the live. That is when I recorded the file Unexpected Delays because I felt really bad for not being able to do the live. William Dinger asks, 2 lives ago I asked you if you're a tease and you'll say you'll answer it later. Please give me an... Oh. Alexa asked, how many chickens are in one nugget? It kind of depends. See, if you have a healthy nugget, it's 1. But if it's a McDonald's nugget, it's probably many chickens. Casey Serene asks, if you were a woman for a week, what would you do? Well, day 1 would probably be very, lots of personal exploration. The rest, I don't know. I mean, mostly I assume that women largely experience the same things as men. Madeline asks, what is your favorite breakfast food? Either cereal or muesli with yogurt. So cereal with milk or muesli with yogurt. And yes, personal exploration is just a really gentle way of saying furious masturbation for as long as possible. Also, because I have friends that enjoy certain things, there are some devices I would have to borrow from them. Wika asks, when does the bedtime story start? About 20 minutes ago. Oh, more even. About 30 minutes ago. Midnight Films asks, do you pour milk before or after you add the cereal? So I, with cereal, I do cereal first, then milk. With muesli, I do yogurt first, then muesli. Valerie asks, are you the guy? You sound very different here. Well, yes. See, if I do my more relaxed voice, it sounds much more like, hello, I am the one who makes the files. Sleepy Doll asks, are you a dog or a cat person? I'm a human. Alexa asked, creepiest thing you can think about. I think the idea that someone is staring at you, and you almost but not quite see them. Mastermind asks, why do all these people call you sir? What did you do to deserve such a noble title? Well, unlike yourself, rather than putting it in my name, I apparently earned some respect. It's also because within DS there's a lot of titles and sir is the most neutral one. Brian asks, so if you become a vampire, are you basically just Nimja, but he's a vampire now? Or do you grow your hair and nails long and wear frilly like clothes and sleep in a coffin? Oh, that depends a bit on the vampire, but probably I would avoid it. Besides, you wouldn't know anyway. Nimja life is after sunset, after all. So you'll never know for sure. Emily Mao asks, if you were a drag queen, what would your name be? Well, one of the fun things about the name Nimja is that it's basically gender neutral. Flora asks, do you like long nails on a woman? Sure, as long as they don't break if they scratch me. FBI asks, do you believe in any conspiracy theories? If yes, then what? See, the very name conspiracy theories means that they are just theories of conspiracy without any proof or anything else. Eternal Fancy asks, what is the craziest excuse you've ever heard or used? I mean, I don't know if it's the craziest excuse ever, but so the thing is, a lot of people don't want to take responsibility for their own actions. And one of the kind of stupidest things I've heard is basically the excuse that there's nothing wrong with them, but everyone else in the world is wrong. Flora asks, what's the difference between cruelty and sadism? That's kind of that's a very tough one to quickly explain. So both of them are very similar, but inside BDSM, we don't really want cruelty because it should all be consensual. Just a Little Me asks, what's the most teasy thing a sub has done to you? I'll tell later. Jezebel asks, I noticed you didn't really answer the question about a good memory. Why is that? Is there something you're not telling us? Madeline Maggie asks, what's the weirdest thing that happened when you were recording a live? I mean, the most annoying one was like when YouTube wasn't working. I forgot the spiral of, I think, once or twice. And weirdest. I don't know if there were like there wasn't anything super weird happening. Valerie Legislav asks, is this your first live, sir? No, actually, this is live number 54. Alexa asked, the longest tease you have done to a sub. It's a tough question. I have to go back to you on that one. Kurapika, I apologize, asks, I'm a cartoonist and I love to think what to draw while listening to your files. Where can I give you some fan art? Actually, that would be on hypno.nimja.com/contact. Eternal Fancy asks, why do the lives start at number 2? So live number 1 was not done with this streaming software. It was done with Hangouts. It was an experiment, so it's only available on YouTube and not on the site. FBI asks, do you have an Instagram account? No, I do not have a Facebook, Instagram account, and my Tumblr account I haven't used since 2018 because I'm already active in many places and it's already a lot. You're welcome to share your appreciation of me on Instagram, but I'm already so busy that I don't want to have more stuff going on. Sophie asks, would a photo of something in real life that reminds me of one of the files count as a fan art submission? Well, so I do share some of the fan arts that I receive on the site. You're still welcome to share something with me, but not everything will end up on the site. Andreevas asks, are there any file contents which you're not comfortable with making? Oh, yes. There's quite a few things that I'm not willing to, or not comfortable making. Anything with racism or sexism or any kind of ism that is instigating hate between people. That's something I will not do, and I will not do anything that will permanently damage health, like feeding. Just a Little Me asks, are you teasy in real life or just internet life? I think most people who've met me in real life will agree that I'm completely unteasy. Okay, no, very teasy. Brandon asked, do you remember the watermelon, watermelon you did on the live that one time? Yes. I even remember that 8 Knives made an MP3 out of it. FBI asked, how much, by the way, that is just weird to read up. Phoebe asks, how much do you get paid as a hypnotist? Just wondering. How much I make on my Patreon is public, so you can look at it yourself on patreon.com/Nimja. Madeline asks, what is the latest movie you watched? Full movie, I believe, is a horror movie series. Insidious? Yes, Insidious, and I watched part 2 and part 3 recently. Bogdan the Lurker asks, can we get a dragon voice for this live? Alexa asks, can you do a Stitch voice, please? Stitch from Lilo and Stitch? I'm not sure how that would sound. Casey Serene asks, can we have a hint on what Tuesday's file is going to be? I could, but I won't. Eternal Fancy asks, what's your favorite snack for when watching a movie? Oh, that depends on my mood. It can be crisps, nuts, grapes, all kinds. I don't really remember how Stitch sounds. I thought it was something like, but a little bit like Elvis, but I really don't know. Phoebe asks, how do you celebrate Christmas? With family. Brian asks, if you were to hang a motivational poster on your wall, what would it say? Motivational posters are ineffective. That's what the poster would say. It would probably have a really fancy nature scene with an eagle in it, and it would say motivational posters are ineffective. Cheyenne asks, next time we're chatting, can we have a conversation in robot voices? Madam Blackamus Prime asks, have you ever worn a dress? No. Technically. Eternal Fancy asks, why don't the URLs match the file names, and why do some of the URLs lead to scripts like blank? Please contact me on the site and ask that question again in more detail with examples, please. If there's any links incorrect, then I would like to know. Wicca asks, what is your favorite movie? My favorite movie is... well, I have a few favorite movies. Amélie Poulain is a really good movie. And Bin Jip, or Empty Houses, or Three Iron is also a really good movie. And there's a couple of action movies I like. Blast Purpras, what is the first thing that comes into your mind after reading this question? That it's really easy to ask questions, but much harder to come up with answers. Just a Little Me asks, do we as a collective ever surprise you with the energy or direction we bring to the lives? Yes and no. Sometimes it's surprising, but very often there's also a lot of predictability in some behavior. Myrna asks, do you read books often? If so, what's your favorite book? My favorite book series would probably be Discworld. Phoebe asks, what is the best and worst purchases you've ever made? The worst purchase I've ever made was an exercise machine of like a bit over 300 euros that I didn't really use. And the best purchase is probably this microphone. Because I think that many people enjoy that I've bought this microphone. It's really good at representing my voice. Becca Rose asks, if you could eat one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be? Meals. Rex asks, what is the most wholesome thing you've heard? Heard? I'm not sure. The narrator asks, something you bought out of impulse? Actually, no, I rarely do impulse purchases above 50 euros as a personal rule. I was like, maybe I can have an exercise machine while watching series, but it was too wobbly and uncomfortable. I already bicycle a lot, so it didn't really do that much more. Madeline asks, what is your favorite game you bought this year so far? Probably Ori and the Will of the Wisps. That being said, I technically didn't buy it, but someone gifted me the money to buy Cyberpunk 2077. And considering it's by the makers of The Witcher, I suspect it'll be really good. Phoebe asks, if you could know the absolute and total truth to one question, what question would you ask? The funny thing is, there are a lot of questions you could use for this, and you can do them in many ways. For example, how can I live forever? Although the answer of a total truth could also be like no, but yeah. Chill Station asks, do you listen to Daft Punk? Yes. Just a Little Me asks, what is a way you think you could make the majority of us smile right now? There. Mastermind asks, if I change my name to I'm a Sub, would you read it out loud too? Well, yes, because reading out literal is no problem. ATLA more or less or the same amount as TLOK. The narrator asks, I don't know what ATLA means. At the something. What does ATLA and TLOK means? Oh, Avatar The Last Airbender. Oh, yes, the Avatar The Last Airbender I personally liked much more than The Legend of Korra. Jezebel asks, do you have a good memory? Phoebe asks, what is the best, worst practical joke that you've played on someone or that was played on you? See, I'm not a fan of practical jokes. And like, unless they're pranks that make people amused and slightly confused. Like, it's hard to play a good practical joke on someone that makes them happy afterwards. Jezebel asks, are you going to replace every question I ask with that? No, only the silly ones. Bogdan the Lurker asked, morbid question. But do you fear death? No, he's a really nice guy. Also, being afraid of death is kind of silly because it's inevitable. It's good to be careful. Like, don't go jumping into a volcano is generally good advice. But like, live your life with both care and comfort. Don't make fear like your life, but also don't live your life in a way where you basically run into a tree. Madeline asks, what is the best horror movie you have seen? Pure horror, so not a psychological thriller, would probably The Cabin in the Woods, which was very entertaining in a good horror way. Rex asks, what is your favorite kind of pizza? It really depends on my mood. And yes, I am okay with pineapple on pizza. But, you know, live and let live. Eternal Fancy asks, what is your best/worst punishment? Phoebe asks, what mythical creature do you wish actually existed? I mean, I've answered Griffin before, I believe, but it's still difficult. George, George, George of the jungle, strong as he can be. Sheehan asks, is being a bot a lonely existence? Well, it is if you're the only one. Alexa asks, ways to watch a horror movie with your little. Prepare lots of cuddles and pillows to hide under. Sleepy Doll asks, do you like rainy days? Yeah, they're quite nice. Bogdan the Lurker asks, what is the lamest animated show that you ever saw? That's a tough question. I mean, like, most shows that are kind of terrible are fascinatingly terrible. Biker Mice from Mars is sort of a copy of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And it is so bad that it becomes funny again. Emily Mao asks, how has technology changed the music industry? That is a very serious question for a hypnosis stream. Basically, it has made it easier for people to make music and to spread music, but it's also made it easier for the big record companies to basically keep music the same. Chill Station asks, what is your favorite type of hypnosis to make? Well, what I feel like at the time. Sleepy Doll asks, are you excited for Christmas? Just a Little Me asks, what is the art form you most admire? Those that people do with passion. Strawberry Milk asks, what are the future plans for Nimja Incorporated? If you didn't get the memo, you'll have to find out later. Brandon comments, speaking of your littles, a comment, not a question. I love your little files. Very genuine and very calming with those. Oh, thank you. Emily Mao asks, how often do you check your phone? Where is it? Actually, not that often. Phoebe asks, what is the craziest conversation you've overheard? Are you listening in on people again, Phoebe? Katie Savo asks, if you were to give one piece of advice for someone working with kids, what would it be? Chill. Like, don't let them get to you. Bastian asks, love your content. Where are you from? I am from the Netherlands. Alexa asks, there's a mosquito in my room. What am I supposed to do? You kill it or let it out. Especially if it's a female mosquito. Marita Littlefoot asks, what about your plans of world domination? What plans? You don't know anything about that. Kimmy Panda asks, why did you start your channel and starting this kind of videos? Because there wasn't much there, and I thought I could do a good job. Nika asks, what's a common thing people do today that would horrify someone from 100 years ago? Share every little, pointless thing with many people. Also be very disrespectful to people, around you. That's also horrifying. Under the guise of anonymity, people can be real assholes. Sleepy Doll asked, do you sing in the shower? Not more than anywhere else. The narrator asks, take a shot every time someone asks a Nimja basic question that are on the site. And maybe. Xenix asks, what is your most favorite reward to give to a good submissive? I mean, a good girl does really wonders, but there are more fun rewards. Flora asks, do you often use tickling as a torture? That heavily depends on the person in question. It can be a lovely torture to those who, enjoy it is not really the right word. Sariana asks, sir, do you transform us all secretly into Nimja Inc. agents for the takeover of the world? Of course not. That's a ridiculous idea. I would never do that. Phoebe asks, Nimja, do you agree that the medieval ages were one of the worst times to exist? All the torture machines and so on. Most of those torture machines are not from the Middle Ages, but from quite a while later. Plus, some of them are not real. The Iron Maiden, for example, is a fake torture machine. 10 minutes remaining. Red asks, what do you think is the most dangerous or scary thing about hypnosis and why? I think mostly that people use it at the wrong time or don't inform themselves. Hypnosis is not really dangerous or scary. It's more like any tool, the people that use it are more of an issue than the tool itself. Emily Mao asks, name a band you only pretend to like. Why would I pretend to like something? That's kind of a silly thing. Like, oh yeah, I'm totally into insert band name here. Phoebe asks, what was your most recent lie? I don't know. I tend not to. And I haven't played Among Us yet, so I haven't had any reason to lie about my whereabouts while the body was found in engineering. I technically didn't say that I am not a teasy person. I actually did correct myself immediately after to make it clear that I was being sarcastic. So technically not a lie. Although Jezebel's comment would be indeed more accurate, because the way I said Jezebel asks is also more recent and would technically be falling under lying. Just a little me asks, would you please purr? Naomi Manders asks, could you finish this live with some words to put us to sleep? Maybe. Girl Looking for More asks, can you make more sleep arousal videos? I actually should. Sleepy Doll asks, if you could write one new law that everyone had to obey, what would it be? To quote Bill and Ted, be excellent to each other. Like, the thing is, if people were just, decent human beings, that would make a big change in the world. The narrator asks, can you do the dominant look? I'll be your best friend. No. Alexa asks, worst bratty thing that a sub ever done to you? I don't think I want to repeat that, just because I might give people ideas. Kimi Pen asks, what is your favorite game to play? Right now I'm playing Nier Automata. And I quite like Risk of Rain 2. It's a really nice roguelike to play. I am tempted to buy Hades. It's apparently really, really good. But I'm still super busy with other things. Yeah, people who work at Nimja Inc. tend to not be too concerned about their income, one way or the other. Cheyenne asks, when does bratting become annoying defiance? I think the line is when bratting is done for attention. So the idea of bratting is that it's a game between dominant and sub, and that there's like an enjoyment on both parts. The famous words make me are really fun when they are in the right context. However, bratting for the sake of bratting is just really annoying. Rex asks, are there any questions you're sick of answering? I think I've heard that question before. Westlake Angel asks, cookies in the cafeteria in Nimja Inc. are always free, right? Well, I mean, the science department always has some cookies to try out on people. Avera mentions that the people who made Hades have a good track record of making good games. Well, I mean, Bastion was nice. It was not a great game. And the other games they made were like slowly getting better. But Hades is apparently like the best game they've made so far. So we'll see. Madeline asks, what is a song that inspires you? The Show Must Go On by Queen. Eternal Fancy asks, would you ever make a Nimja Inc. mock website? No. I think it's real enough for people already. Becca Rose asks, do you video call with someone while on the live? You keep looking over to the left. I actually look in multiple places on my screen because I am doing a live stream, which means I check different things. I check the notes I've made before. I check if the audio is good. I check if there's anything going on with YouTube statistics. So yeah, there's all kinds of things going on. Also, I have the chat not exactly centered because otherwise I wouldn't have any space on my screen left. Andrew asks, do you have any interest in philosophy? Yeah. Kimmy asks, what's your favorite playlist category on your channel in general and what is your favorite to make? I think the evil denial is fun. Eternal Fancy asks, do you have any major drama in your life? At the moment, not really, despite some silly people trying. Also, I'm looking at the clock as well, because I need to make sure that I'm not running over time. It's tempted to let this go on forever, but it's also good for myself to sleep and recover. Incidentally, about 3 minutes remaining. Flora asks, what thing doesn't interest you at all? Yeah, in what context? There's lots of things that don't really interest me. From a science perspective, I'm interested in a lot of things, but I don't know. It's hard to say what it doesn't interest at all. Alexa asks, are you into shibari? Well, I like tying people up. Bogdan the Looker asks, do you ever relax yourself when you do hypnosis? Yes. It is not a very well-kept secret, but almost every hypnotist that is good sort of trances themselves as they trance other people. Katie Savo asks, did you go to school for programming or are you self-taught? Yes. Eternal Fancy asks, what things do you code? Things for work and for private stuff. Madeline asks, do you do meditation? Sometimes. The narrator asks, have you thought about changing the thumbnails to black with white text to help nighttime viewers? Probably not, because the contrast between the thumbnails and the videos would be kind of weird. Anyway, 1 minute remaining. Kristen T. Clark asks, any advice for when a sub is feeling less obedient than they would like to? The simplest advice is always to remember to communicate with your dominant. Erit asks, favorite position? Well, while doing a live, sitting is quite comfortable. And last question. Mokuli asks, do you think I have a good memory? Probably. Anyway, that is basically it. Katie Safo asks, why do you wake us at the end of a live? Is that just a routine thing you came up with? In a way, yes. And it's actually kind of a throwback to the Nimja news that I did many years ago. For those of you who like it, hugs. And I hope that you have had lovely fun and that you enjoyed yourself. This was Nimja Live. Wake.